I made some of the strangest footballs you will ever see. From the lightest to the heaviest to those that, well, you've got to wait and see this one. But are any of them actually good? We're going to start with the ice football because this one's going to take some time to freeze. I bought this spherical ice mold that has a football design. It's both very large for an ice cube whilst also being very small for a football, which is why I've also got something much larger to try. Now I heard if you boil water and let it cool a few times, it helps to get rid of all of the impurities, which should make the ice much clearer when it cools, so hopefully we get a more transparent football. Now it's time for the much larger ice football. Obviously no one makes ice cube molds the size of an actual football, that would be insane. So I had to improvise and buy these large transparent Christmas ball balls. Very fiddly. Luckily this little bit of damage is just the right size hole for me to pour some water in. I just need to use some duct tape to seal this up really well. You can probably tell I'm not taking any chances that this is going to leak. Okay, time to fill it up. It's taken a long time. It looks like this water's still a bit warm, but it's not leaking. So far. Now that we've finally filled this up, let's put it in the freezer inside this cool bag to make sure that none of it spills out. Let's come back to this at the end of the video. Now you're probably thinking this is just a plain football, right? Well, you are correct, but it's what I'm going to do with it is what makes it weird. You see, in 2006, Puma brought out a pair of iconic grass patterned football boots. The whole idea of camouflaging your feet was kind of mind-blowing at the time. But that got me thinking, what if we camouflage the ball? This could either turn out to be amazing or an absolute mess. I'm starting off by giving this a dark brown-green base coat. It looks like we're going to need several layers to make sure that the white doesn't show through. I actually think this is looking good already, even without the texture. And we are just about done, apart from the very bottom half. Okay, let's just finish this other side off then. Now what better way to get the grass texture than to actually use a handful of grass? The plan is to quite literally use this as a brush to dab the paint on the ball. It's got to work. The paint can't go onto the grass too thickly, otherwise we'd just end up with blobs of paint all over the ball. Okay, I think this could work. What's really going to help make this more realistic is having different tones of green, and to also paint back in some darker texture. This part didn't take as long as I expected. I could quickly cover the ball with random brush marks, or grass marks. I think we're about done. The texture is not as defined as I would have liked, but it's still a camouflage pattern. So let's find out if it's more difficult to see. This is a moment of truth. It's not perfect, that would be almost impossible because of the shape of the ball. It's definitely harder to see than a regular ball. The illusion does break though when you start to look at it at an angle. At a quick glance, the ball is slightly obscured against the grass, but as it rolls, you lose sight of the texture and it just looks like any old green ball. The paint job is holding up surprisingly well, even on a stamped ground. This is drastically more difficult to see than a regular football. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. Now I actually ordered 2 of these plain footballs because I wanted to try something a little different with this one. This right here is Musso black paint. It's one of the darkest paints that's available for anyone to buy. Unlike your standard black acrylic paint, this absorbs up to 99.4% of light, making 3-dimensional objects appear flat. So the hope here is to turn this football into a flat circle. I decided to use this old cloth to dab the paint on to make sure I don't get any brush strokes. The thing is, this paint doesn't come cheap. This tiny bottle costs £25, so I hope we have enough to cover the whole ball. I'm just going around the seams of the ball to make sure we're left with no white marks. Painting a football is not the easiest of things to do. It's still looking quite glossy at the moment, but it should dry matte. I am a bit worried that we're going to run out of this paint though. I can already see how well it's working, even in this bright daylight. Flip this over and pour. And it's empty. Right, here we go again. After adding our second coat, we are finally just about done. It feels surreal to hold. It's really hard to gauge the depth of the ball. How does it look to actually play with it though? It's far easier to see than a camo ball, that's for sure. Especially when it's on the ground. And it's not too much different than a regular football to kick. It just looks very strange. What if this ball was being kicked directly at you though? What a shot that was! I also think it looks and sounds like I'm playing with a cannonball. The ball isn't holding up so well this time though. You can see all the areas where the paint scratched off, and it's rubbing off as well. Yeah, RIP my new boots. And the goalpost for that matter. I will say that the effectiveness of this increases massively in low light conditions. This ball is definitely becoming easier to lose now. It's just so unusual. This gets a 6 out of 10. Have you ever dreamed of a football made out of cake? This is a football cake, or half a football cake. So I bought 2 of them. See where this is going? To be brutally honest, I have zero hope for this. It surely is not going to work. We do have to at least try though, just in case. Now to stick these 2 halves together, I need to add a little more icing around the edge. And I'm going to use icing sugar with a small bit of water to act like a glue. Moment of truth. Let's stick this on. Oh no, it's not too bad. It looks like it's getting crushed under its own weight. I better be quick. Start off with the smallest of touches. Step over. It's actually holding together. Ooh, oh no, it started to come apart. Just before it breaks completely, shall we header this? What am I doing? 3, 2, 1. That actually held together much better than I thought. One half is smashed, the other half is mostly still okay. Oh, and subscribe if you like cake. It's obviously unplayable now, so this gets a 1 out of 10. But still, it is cake, and we can't let this go to waste. Just give me a minute while I get rid of this. The next two footballs are almost the polar opposites of each other. We have one of the lightest and by far the heaviest. Starting with the lightest, we have the giant polystyrene ball. This is very close to the size of a standard size 5 ball, but I think we can make it look a lot more like a football before we test it. Now I really like the design on this Uniforme ball, so let's try and recreate that. Because the design follows the shape of the panels, I'm going to start off by marking out where the panels go. Being careful not to press too hard with this pen and risk damaging the ball. I've got to say, it's a lot harder than it looks drawing onto the surface of a sphere. And that's the last of the colour. Looking good so far. Now for the darker marks on the inside of these shapes. It does feel like it's really coming together now. For the final part, we'll add the logos on and some of the extra details like the valve. We are now finished. There's a few slightly dodgy areas, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. And from a distance, I'd say it starts to look realistic. Let's do a bounce test. Okay, so it does bounce, but don't you think it sounds an awful lot like it's made out of wood? What's it like to kick? Oh my god, that feels strange. It feels like it absorbs all the power. I'll tell you what, let's take this outside to test properly. That's actually a lot stronger than expected. The really weird thing about this ball is that it's best to kick it lightly. Check this out, this is a power shot. This is a light shot. Oh, top corner. As soon as you hit it with any power, then the wind just takes it and it just curves off target. Oh, how did I miss that? It's impossible to score with. Yes! Finally! Another thing I noticed is that this ball gets dented and damaged very easily. It's a really strange and, let's be honest, an absolutely terrible material to make a football out of. This gets a 3 out of 10. It surely can't be worse than this though. The bowling ball football. I managed to find one that already had a white football print on it. So we had the very simple task of colouring in a few of these shapes. This permanent marker should do the trick. After the first layer, it's not a perfect black, so I'm going to have to go over this twice, including this part with the text on. I have to say, that is looking very clean. And that should be the final one. It's looking good, but we do still have these finger holes. So let's try filling this in with some air dry modelling clay. I have no idea at all if this is going to hold. It's very sticky, but as the name suggests, it should dry a lot harder. And now to just make this a bit neater. And there we go. Now obviously this has been so far the easiest football to make, but now we've got to do the unthinkable. We've got to test it. I'm going to do this bounce test outside because I don't want to destroy my floor. 3, 2, 1. Listen to that sound. That is 5.5 kilograms slamming into the ground. Well, I don't know what I was expecting, but that is a pretty huge dent in the ground. To dribble with it, you kind of have to push it along. And even then, you can already start to feel it causing pain. Once it gets going, it does have a lot of momentum. Let's try a shot. Here we go. Ooh. That's not good. I think I'm renaming this ball to the ankle breaker. Do we dare try keep-ups? Oh, 1. Oh, header. Do you think I'm mad? Don't ever try that, ever. I kind of think to get the most out of this football, we need to take it to its more natural environment. I'm talking about the bowling alley, of course. Let's see if we can get a strike or a goal by kicking it in. Right, here we go. That's not a great start. And yes, I do have the barriers up because I'm a complete novice. I was gradually getting closer, knocking down more and more pins, but I was still trying to hide the pain. And of course, be completely discreet because I don't want to get chucked out. This attempt probably got the closest, knocking down most of the pins. I still think it's better actually rolling it with your hands though. Definitely better. The novelty is fun, but it's just way too painful to actually play with. This gets a 2 out of 10. But I am super excited to try these next 3 footballs. I brought the most true to size football design beach balls, and I'm going to try to fill them with 3 different things. The first one, I'm filling with air. The second one might be a bit of a struggle, but I'm going to try and fill this with water. Something tells me this is going to take a very long time. I think it's going in. If you're wondering why I put the balloon pump nozzle in there, it's so that I can funnel the water in easier. But I'm still pouring half of it away. We are just about done. And this is unbelievably heavy. The third ball, I'm going to try and fill it with helium. Rather than floating up and away, I would love to get it so that it basically hovers. Luckily, the nozzle just about fits on, so let's see if this works. Okay, that was a lot quicker than expected. So let's test these out. So there are no surprises whatsoever with the airfield ball. It's exactly like kicking a small beach ball. It's light, it blows about in the wind, but it's also a lot of fun. The ball does stay in the air a lot longer, but keep-ups aren't that much easier to do because the wind just keeps blowing the ball away. The fact that this ball is egg-shaped is certainly not helping. If you hit this with any power, then it reacts a lot like the polystyrene ball. It's very hard to hit the target. Kick it more lightly though, and you can be more accurate with your shots. Let's give this one a 5 out of 10. Next is a water ball, which has no shape to it at all. To be completely honest, I'm worried this is going to be like a giant water balloon and burst all over my foot. But we've got to try. 3, 2, 1. Oh! It burst. As expected, my foot is drenched. This has to get a 1 out of 10. Now for the anti-gravity helium filled ball. Oh, that is disappointing to say the least. I was so excited for this one. Playing with it feels just like the standard air-filled ball. It does at least have a better, more rounder shape to it. But let's do a quick comparison. This is the air-filled ball, this is the helium-filled ball. 3, 2, 1. They're the same. I'm trying my best to see if it is actually any different, but it's really not. Oh, no, it's not even that windy. And yet, you can still score own goals with it. With these light footballs, you'll soon discover that they're very easy to lose. No, not quite this time though. Yes, but it has got a better shape than the air football, so this gets a 6 out of 10. Before we test the ice footballs, let's check out the Piñata football. Now we all know what a piñata is, a cardboard shape that's usually filled with sweets, but this one is a little different. There's 2 ways to try and break this open. The first is to try and kick a football at it. This was surprisingly difficult. I was getting very close, skimming it a few times, but then the unusual happened. The cable tie snapped. After threading it back up, I took another shot, and it happened again. Looks like we're gonna have to try our second method of breaking this open, actually playing with it. Keep-ups are interesting. It's already dented it though. Dribbling with this feels really weird because the weight inside keeps shifting about. And before it fully breaks, let's just try and kick it to see what happens. Oh, oh my God. This was actually filled with 100 football bouncy balls. And it looks like I scored quite a few goals with this. Now that exploding apart looks incredible. But this is still a single-use football, so this gets a 2 out of 10. Now I've just got to clean this all up. Okay, now for the intriguing ice footballs, which should be ready. Let's start with a smaller one. This one should have an actual football print on it. And it does. This looks so cool. It feels cool too. It's not quite as transparent as I would have hoped. But come on, it is an ice football. I guess we've got to start playing with it before it melts. Playability wise, it's possible to dribble with it and do a few skills. Keep-ups seem to work a bit better. The ball is holding together very well, although I do feel like I'm on a time limit. You can already see water flicking off this as it melts. Even at this size, it's quite painful to kick, which makes me worried about the larger one. Does it survive a shot at goal? It looks like it. Let's give this a 5 out of 10 because it actually looks like a mini football made out of ice. Time to bring out the big beast. Oh my God, it's so heavy. Snap the outer shell off. Oh, this is so cold. Right, quick before it melts. Oh no, I can't believe it's already broken. Listen to that thud. No wonder it broke. It's still playable though, kind of. Ouch. It's very heavy, and of course that means it hurts. Oh. Yeah, don't ever try keep-ups with a large ice football. It's also been picking up so much grass and moss. We're still going to try a shot at goal though. Let's hope my foot survives. Oh no! Go in! Despite how crazy it is to have a giant ice ball, it just couldn't withstand its own weight. That's why it gets a 3 out of 10. Subscribe to see more crazy videos like this.